to abandon ship.
Oh no!
Here we go!
Can I persuade you to join us for a drink? It's a tradition.
Here, here.
Jar Jar, homie, my main man, quickly. Before the Separatists attack, get into the escape pod.
Hey! This is escape, and we're the pod.
Welcome back to Star Wars Escape Pod and another episode of Rebels Talk, Part 8. We are so happy to have you join us once again in the Escape Pod, and we hope everyone's been enjoying the binge, the journey to Ahsoka coming out in August on Disney Plus. And with me today is your esteemed co-host Blake, and we're going to be chatting about the next 4 episodes in Season 2 of Star Wars Rebels, which we will get into in just a moment. Stay tuned.
Another happy landing.
War is inevitable. One must destroy in order to create. We are no Jedi.
I started hearing whispers of Thrawn's return as heir to the Empire.
What happens when we find Thrawn?
Power, such as you've never dreamed.
I've spent most of my life fighting a war. That's why I'm trying to convince you to help me prevent another one. You and I both know who could help you with this.
She's still just as stubborn as ever.
I bet your master found you difficult at times.
Anakin never got to finish my training. I walked away from him, just like I walked away from Sabine.
You never made things easy for me, Master.
As a Jedi, sometimes you have to make the decision no one else can. But I'm counting on you to see this through.
Nice haircut. Sometimes we have to do what's right, regardless of our personal feelings.
Buckle up.
If we don't stop Thrawn, everything will be in vain. You have no power.
Anakin spoke highly of you.
I'm not here to discuss my past.
We have a lot of work to do.
Once a rebel, always a rebel.
All right, welcome back, sir.
Hello there.
Hello there. And that was a crazy trailer that just came out for Ahsoka, which, well, we're all looking forward to that. But I can't believe after, binging Rebels and then seeing like a live action Lothal like that, it's crazy.
I just can't wait to season 4 when we finally see Sabine as a Jedi.
Yeah. All right, so I got something to say about that because I know people have opinions about this, and I think it's super obvious that okay, Kanan trained her in and again, for those of you who have never seen Star Wars Rebels, you're joining us for the ride. Small spoilers for kind of later. But, Sabine in Star Wars Rebels does not have the Force, right? She's just a Mandalorian who's been trained by Kanan to use the Darksaber for a brief period of time.
But we don't know what happened after the end of Rebels. Because Sabine and Ahsoka were alone going to look for Ezra.
Right. So my theory is that Ahsoka just continued that training. And, as we've seen from the trailer, and recently Comic-Con, they had all the props on display. Sabine uses Ezra's green lightsaber. So it's not her lightsaber, it's Ezra's lightsaber. And in the trailer, that character and recently a bunch of Lego set. I'm going to talk to you about Lego in just a moment. Character named Shin, orange lightsaber, blonde hair. She says, "You have no power." And they're clearly fighting each other, right? So I think there's definitely something there that I think people can kind of be cued by. It's okay, she's fighting with a lightsaber, but she doesn't have the Force. It's a bit like Bo-Katan or the Mandalorian with their dark saber. We're seeing more of the same thing.
Okay, or in trailer, from a trailer perspective, this is seeing Finn with a lightsaber.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, where people are going nuts and be like, "Oh, he's got the Force. He's a stormtrooper. That's a Jedi." No, I think it's just one of those things that's I don't know. Trailer, I think, is messing with her head a little bit, but
no, that's understandable.
No, I don't think she's got the Force. I think technically they all got midi-chlorians, otherwise life would not exist.
That's why technically, through George speak, she could use the Force.
Right, exactly.
And then we'd have 2 series almost back to back with Jedi Mandalorians.
I
virtually never existed before.
If you ask me, I think she's just a non-Force user who has been trained in the ways of lightsaber art form, if that makes sense, right? Yeah. And I think the way that she says "master" to Ahsoka, it's kind of disdainful. It's kind of like an insult sort of thing.
Tongue in cheek.
Because she's not actually a Jedi, right? So no one really should be calling her a master, technically. Maybe teacher or something, instructor, mentor. But she kind of phrases it like she's a Padawan, like Ezra used to be. And we know that Star Wars Rebels, Sabine is quite a sassy girl, right?
Sure.
So I don't know. I'm thinking maybe that's what it was. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
I just really hope she's not a Jedi.
Yeah. I don't think we have anything to worry about.
Okay.
Lego sets, new Lego sets. Right before we dive into Star Wars Rebels, new Lego sets announced.
Did you said there was a new minifig, a Jedi Sabine minifig?
Yes, there is actually. Okay,
there's
so
also, I think they already announced the soundtrack, and there's a song called "Sabine Uses the Force."
Sabine uses the Force. Okay, so
that's a joke. It's a callback to Phantom Menace.
It is, yeah. So new Lego set. Of course, we have confirmation of the new Ghost, which is super cool.
New as in just a new set, or new as in the actual ship has been changed?
Well, the ship, as they re-release Lego sets as time goes by, they do tend to alter them slightly. And I have the photos here. You can flick through if you like. I've got pictures of the new Ghost with an included Phantom version 2, as well as a picture of the original Ghost, which sits on the shelf right behind you there, and a picture of the original Phantom that you could buy separately. But that's the Phantom version 1. Mm-hmm. And then there was also a Phantom version 2 that you could buy separately.
Version 2 didn't fit in the
exactly.
In the Ghost.
Yeah. So I have the version 1 and the original Ghost. I don't have the version 2, to my regret, because the Thrawn minifigure has shot up in value.
Oh, I wonder why.
So flick through there.
Oh, you showed me this the other day on the Discord channel.
Yeah.
Join the Discord.
Join the Discord.
And the first thing I noticed is the new set doesn't have parts numbers.
Yeah, so I guess the prototype images just kind of don't they remove that stuff maybe?
Because I was trying to figure out if it's physically bigger or smaller.
Yeah, no, I think
there's no parts number.
The size, believe it or not, I think is actually the same.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, that's surprising because everything gets smaller,
Yeah, no, I think the Ghost they've actually managed to. So the one thing that I did think that they cheaped out on though is the Phantom version 2, because technically that Phantom version 2 is a separatist shuttle, and if you look up there, I have one. I've got a blue Clone Wars era shuttle, which actually fits people inside the cockpit and in the main kind of double door bay there. And there's
no way that would fit.
No, there's no way it would fit. And that's part of the reason why the original one didn't actually fit, right? So that's why the version 1 fit in the original Ghost and the version 2 didn't. So now they're selling the Ghost at the same size with a modified Lego minifigure scale version 2 Phantom that does fit in the back, because chronologically that's what happens, right?
Right.
So, yeah, have a good look at those character minifigures that it comes with. Can you
I was looking at that.
read the list?
Chopper looks pretty goofy there.
So what do you get with the set?
It's pretty blurry, so it's kind of hard to read names if I don't recognize them. But there's definitely Hera, Chopper. There's a Mon Calamari.
He's some Mon Calamari guy, yeah.
Forrest Whitaker. I think that's what the name looks like, but it's so blurry. And Jafar.
Jafar? What?
I'm trying to read the words, but they're so fuzzy.
Jason Sindula.
Oh, he looks like Jafar. Look at the other one though, is that right? Forrest Whitaker.
Oh man, yeah. So I guess anyone who Forrest Whitaker. I think that says maybe New Republic officer or something.
It's basically the same thing.
Yeah, I don't know. Like that's kind of funny. Anyway, it's not that hard to find these images online. There's actually like official. The photos have been released now. These sets are kind of out in the open. Comic-Con's a thing, everybody. So you can find this news online, but look for yourself. Some cool minifigures there, and looks like it's gonna be pretty sweet. One of 3 Ahsoka Lego sets. So the other 2, I want to show you this one because this one really intrigues me. Is an E-wing. Now in the EU, there's been E-wings, and we saw an E-wing in the trailer just now when Sabine is riding her speeder down the main street in Lothal.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
and there was one kind of hovering next to her. Yeah, so. It looks like to me that the New Republic is using E-wings for their like maybe really partial military or something like that. Because this one has, it's called New Republic E-wing versus Shin Hati's Starfighter. So we get a look at Shin Hati's Starfighter there as well.
That's cool. It's like it almost looks like a Naboo starfighter.
A little bit.
Starfighter, yeah.
A little bit, yeah. The minifigures, it comes with Morgan Elizabeth, who we were introduced to.
You take the image where everything is really crisp and you can read the names. You make me read the ones so blurry you can't see anything.
Well, I mean, it's blurry, but like I know her name already from Mandalorian. So, so Morgan Elizabeth there. Balin, what is it? Balin Crawl or whatever his name is. The dude that we saw with the gray beard and stuff fighting Ahsoka. Shin Hati, as stated on the box. Captain Porter, I think it says. Porker? Captain Porkins too?
Porkins? Yeah, it's Porkins.
And a New Republic astromech droid as well. So there's that set as well. So that you get the villains with that set. And then the last set that's being released is a new T6 Jedi shuttle, which with a new Ahsoka minifigure, live action style. Clear blades with the lightsabers. And this set comes with Sabine wielding Ezra's lightsaber in her
Does
Ahsoka.
it say that in the character description?
Well, no, it's on the picture right there.
And then there's an arrow from Lego and it says Ezra's lightsaber.
I think they're calling it's like a Force Awakens thing, though. Technically, they're calling it hers now. You get David Tennant's character that we were introduced to in Clone Wars.
Oh, the droid.
Yeah.
The lightsaber droid.
What's his name again?
It's a lightsaber droid, Josh.
The lightsaber
Sabine
droid.
Could make a lightsaber with a lightsaber droid.
Yeah, exactly.
What if he'll repair the dark saber? Oh, it didn't happen yet.
No.
Timelines.
Yeah.
Right?
Wait, Dr.
No.
Hu Yang.
Hu
Yang.
So, this actually is a question. Did they announce when this takes place?
Ahsoka?
Yes. Is it before or after Mando Season 3?
It's sideline Season 3.
Okay. So it's while the dark saber breaks.
Yeah, and it's also after her Season 2 appearances with the training of Grogu during the Book of Boba Fett and all that stuff. I think it kind of like takes place after that when she leaves. So I think this show will really put into perspective just like when things all fall into place. But yeah, I think, yeah. So also you get a look at the Inquisitor that we saw from the trailer as well, with the medieval looking armor and mask. And on the box, they revealed his name. And his name is Merrick.
Do you recognize that name?
No. So it's interesting that he doesn't have a name like 12th Brother or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
You know, because as we know from Rebels and Jedi and all these other stories now that a lot of these Inquisitors have like a title, right? Yeah. But I think now that the Empire is kind of gone, maybe like I don't really know who he's fighting for anymore. So it's very, very interesting to kind of like see there's still an Inquisitor alive, like the last Inquisitor, right?
Even outlived Darth Vader.
Yeah. Yeah. So like who's he fighting for? Like who's he aligned with?
Who am I? Who will you become?
So yeah, Merrick, everybody. I don't know. Like it'll be interesting. I think our next book review though, maybe we'll get some information on this. Rise of the Inquisitor, Rise of the Red Blade, just released, written by oh shoot, what's her name again? Red Blade. I think Delilah Dawson. I think Delilah S. Dawson. Yeah. So that'll be our next one. We'll get to it eventually. There's a lot to do, though.
We gotta go through all the junior novels first.
We gotta go through Rebels first. All right, everybody. Season 2, episode 9. Let's get into it. All right, season 2, episode 9, Stealth Strike, written by Matt Michnovetz, directed by Brad Rao, premiered November 25th, 2015 on Disney XD. Guest stars Derek Patridge, Keone Young, and Matthew Wood. Ezra and Commander Sato are captured when a new Imperial weapon, an experimental interdictor cruiser, generates a gravity well strong enough to pull ships out of hyperspace. Hera sends Kanan, Rex, and Chopper to rescue them, using a stolen shuttle, Stormtrooper armor, and Rex's knowledge of Imperial codes and protocols to infiltrate the cruiser. Although Kanan's lingering distrust of Rex initially hampers the mission, Ezra and Chopper head to the reactor to sabotage the cruiser. But Rex is captured as he and Kanan escort Sato and his crew to the shuttle. Kanan heads back to rescue Rex, and they deploy an escape pod. That's right, everybody, an escape pod. After that, as Chopper's sabotage causes the gravity well projectors to overload, pulling the other Imperial cruisers towards the interdictor and destroying it. This is, to note, this is the last episode to take place in 4 BBY. So it is officially the last episode in Rebels that takes place 4 years prior to the Battle of Yavin in Star Wars A New Hope, to give you an idea of the timeline. So we're basically 3 years out now from Rogue One.
Okay.
Yeah. The Gravity Well ship, interdictor class. I believe this is the first time that we were introduced to it in any kind of Star Wars lore, but I could be mistaken. There's a possibility maybe it was an EU thing once again that was brought into canon.
Yeah, I think it was. I think we talked about this with Bryce at one point.
I wouldn't be surprised.
150 podcast episodes ago.
Yeah.
I think it's something like was from like an obscure game. It was a comic. I think it was in a comic.
Oh, it's been in a few things. Yeah, I'm just looking now. Thank you again, Wikipedia. X-Wing Rogue Squadron, first appearance. X-Wing Rogue Squadron number 5, which was a Dark Horse comic series.
Yeah, I thought so.
February 13th, 1996. Woo!
Yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah.
It's a neat idea. I mean, it makes a lot of sense that this is something that would exist for the Empire, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it's cool to see that return. Okay. I had a big problem with this. Rex and Cody inventing security codes for the Republic military at the time, which is still being used, sounds like a massive security flaw, but also extremely unlikely. Not once in the entire Clone Wars show did we see them making these codes. And I know there's a lot of stuff that happens between the episodes and around, outside of our camera lens that we get the snapshot of the Clone Wars in those 7 seasons. But I just thought it was kind of odd because in the first theatrical Clone Wars release, he reveals to us as an audience and to the other characters that he was not part of the Battle of Geonosis. He's not part of the first generation of clones.
Rex, you mean?
Yeah. So I would imagine that anyone who came up with those codes and protocols would have likely been part of the first batch. And also, therefore, higher ranking officers when the Clone Wars got a little heated with the Battle of Christophsis.
I have a question if the clones even did that, because they probably would be working on this stuff while raising the clones.
You're exactly right.
Would have
Yeah.
been done maybe by
People like Yularen,
yeah.
Tarkin, you know, officers that were like military people, but like, you know, above the clones.
Mandalorian trainers.
Yeah, I just, you know, too, like, you know, no offense to the characters, but like,
Dawn Mandalorians.
yeah, I feel like some random captain and commander in the clone army just would not be the ones to invent most of those codes and protocols.
Mid-war.
Yeah. I was like, I feel like they kind of did it for the sake of the episode story, but it just seemed like a bit of a, it's like, that didn't need to be there. It's like, okay, yeah, sure, like Rex knows all this stuff. Did he really have to be the guy that came up with it?
Right.
Like, that seems so unlikely.
I think it was more of an artistic choice.
Yeah.
Showing that, like, the grizzled old war veteran who's kind of like been around the block.
Which is like way more important than he needs to be.
Yeah, I guess. He wasn't even,
Yeah.
the thing is, he wasn't even a commander. He was a captain. Did I get that right? Yeah.
He was a captain, yeah. But then at the very end of Clone Wars, he was promoted to commander in order to lead the troops with Ahsoka to Mandalore.
Ah, that's right. Right at the very, very end.
Yeah, right at the very end.
So does that mean the Commander Rex?
Yeah, technically.
Lego figures, like
technically, it's Commander Rex.
Super rare and were like worth a lot of money.
I don't think, did they release a Lego figure for Rex as a commander? I don't think they did.
Maybe I'll make one.
Yeah, I think the only season 7 Clone Wars set there was like the Maul versus Ahsoka one. Yeah, I didn't get that one, but I don't know. I always see it everywhere.
It was on the discount shelf forever.
Yeah, I know. It's just because it's so dinky and small. You're paying $30 for like 2 minifigures and like a chair.
You might be able to sell the Ahsoka for that back, but
well, that's the funny thing is like when I went to a local toy shop where they like, you know, resell a lot of these things. There was a few of them that was like chair in the used Lego section. Always the minifigures were gone.
Yeah, exactly.
So people were just buying them for the minifigs and then just selling it's like, it's a couple bricks. Like, you don't have a Lego box? Like seriously, man? Like
no spare bricks.
Yeah, like no brick should go spared in the drawer. Like they all must be sold.
I throw away the extra parts.
Yeah. Okay, so what I thought was really funny was an officer who has Ezra in custody. You know, he meets Ezra for the first time, and Ezra does the same trope that we always do. He's like, yeah, and what's your name? Jabba the Hutt. Like, you know, he just spits it out there again. And it's so funny because like Callus knows that about all this, right? So he's informed his like fellow officers about like Ezra's, you know, he's got a file, right? He's got a file. He like goes as these names, these nicknames that he comes up with, which are characters that we are familiar with. And, you know, like, I love how he says like a young one who calls himself Jabba the Hutt, and you know, because he's talking to Callus on the phone. He's like, yeah, we have a young kid who calls himself Jabba the Hutt, and immediately he interrupts. He's like, you have Ezra Bridger. I was like, I actually like, I was like, you know what? If all those previous times that he's done this has led to this moment, it was worth it. Yeah, it was worth the payoff. But it can stop now. You know, it's
I think it will, because I think it's this episode where then he calls him out as Ezra.
Yeah, but it's like an insult too, right? So he's like, or no, like as Jabba. He calls him out as Jabba, you mean?
No, maybe it's in the later episode. I can't remember specifically which scene it was now, but like one of the officers is, and we know a boy that calls himself Jabba.
Yeah.
Ezra Bridger. And then Ezra's like,
yeah. He's like surprised by it.
Like, oh no.
Yeah. It's like, they found out.
They figured it out.
Yeah.
That's probably the last we'll see of that.
Yeah, I think so. Kanan begins to trust Rex in this episode, which is kind of nice because, you know, I mean, what they had going on between them for the last couple of episodes, like, I don't like to see conflict like that go on forever in a show like this.
And like, it didn't make a lot of sense.
It didn't make a lot of sense.
From Kanan's perspective, sure, he was upset. We kind of got that background. But why was Rex so upset with Kanan?
That's the thing. It's like, Kanan's the one with the PTSD. It just seemed kind of out of character for Rex to sort of be a little bit of jerk to him. Yeah. I don't know. I just like, is it his like old man status that's kind of like bringing him up to a different level?
Maybe that's what it is.
I don't know.
Blaster training, Jedi training, blaster training, Jedi training.
Yeah. Exactly. That was all I called out for this one. Do you have anything you want to bring up, or should I hit
This
Pablos and
episode,
Poodoos?
it was mostly just fun. The main thing was the reintroduction of the ship, which I thought was going to become more prominent.
The interdictor?
Yeah, the interdictor, but I don't think we ever see it again.
Yeah, I guess it's a ship and a technology that maybe they just wanted to exist in the lore. I mean, like, as we know, Dave is one of those people that constantly has a pattern of doing that, right? Including bringing back Thrawn and, so many popular EU things, which is a wise choice because, like, they're things that fans have been accustomed to prior to the Disney acquisition. They're things that fans enjoy. Like, why change things so drastically? Like how the sequels came out and, no one felt connected to those films because they just didn't really fit into, like, Star Wars lore that we were familiar with. And they just felt so out of place. And,
yeah, makes sense. After the great culling of the Disney acquisition.
Yeah.
I'm very appreciative of that, of Dave, like, sneaking stuff in one piece at a time.
Yeah, reestablishing, like, the old EU in canon.
The cool stuff. But
yeah, the cool stuff.
Yeah, but it does annoy me in the fact, though, like, this is such a powerful technology that they now have proof that it works. They have all these resources to build a second Death Star, but they're not going to build any more of these things.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't testing. Like, they did say, like, it's kind of an experiment. And at the end of this episode, the experiment went terribly wrong when Chopper did what he did. So they lost their prototype. But then on top of that, it's like maybe they kind of realized, oh, it's a bit of a risk to, like, have such a weapon.
Sucked in all the Star Destroyers.
Yeah. And, like, the only way that it can not be a hazardous is if we just keep it kind of further away from all our ships, but then we can't defend it properly, right? So I can kind of see where that went, but it's also the same kind of thing as, like, with the TIE Defenders, right? It's the same kind of story there with Thrawn's project with the Defenders and all that. Anyone who's kind of read the Thrawn trilogy, the newer one from Timothy Zahn, or watched ahead of us, and you're well into season 3 already of Star Wars Rebels, perhaps you have already been introduced to that idea. But some of these elements that kind of came up in the animated series because they were pulled in from the EU, there's got to be a reason for them kind of not to exist or not to show up in the live action series. And if they, or I mean the original trilogy, that is, right? Yeah. But if they don't show up in those films, I like how Dave's kind of carried some of that stuff over to the live action Disney Plus shows in a way of kind of making it seem more continuous.
Yeah, and, like, maybe these things are more regional.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the galaxy's a big place, right? There's a lot of also unexplored areas, and somehow a Death Star was built without anyone noticing. So, I mean,
Not one, but two.
But two, that's right. Pablo points or Poodoos? I would say 0.5 Pablo points.
I'm making 1 Pablo point, and I give it a Bendu, but the interdictors is super cool.
That is cool. Yeah, it is cool. Yeah. That's a good point. For those who are new to Star Wars Escape Pod,
you have no idea what we're talking about.
You have no idea what we're talking about. Our rating system is kind of a quirky, funny rating system. It's a scale of 7. 3 Pablo Poodoos being absolute worst of the worst, 0%. Moving up from there, you got 2 Pablo Poodoos, 1 Pablo Poodoo, and 50% score is a Bendu, the one in the middle. And again, reference to season 3 of Rebels. Yeah, Pablo points is 1, 2, and 3. 3 being the absolute best of the best of the best. Rarely do we ever give a 3 to anything. It's mostly 1s, 2s, Bendus. I think the worst we've gotten was
2 Poodoos, I think.
2 for me. Bryce has awarded a 3 Poodoo for something.
What was it for?
I think it was for a Bad Batch episode. I think it was the one that's called Pabu. Pabu got 3 Pablo Poodoos. Yeah.
Or like Pabu Poodoos, I guess.
Pabu Poodoos. Pablo. The reason why we go with Pablo Poodoos and Pablo points is because our fellow Canadian Pablo at Lucasfilm, we just love cracking jokes, and we've named our rating system after him.
That's right.
There you go, Pablo. If you're listening, you're welcome.
Feel free to tweet us, Pablo, and tell us on our scale where you rate our scale.
Yeah, exactly.
How
many poodoos or points would you rate our Pablo points and poodoos rating system? Season 2, episode 9, Stealth Strike. That's that. Let's move up to season 2, episode 10, The Future of the Force, written by Bill Wolkoff, directed by Saul Ruiz. Premiered December 2nd, 2015 on Disney XD. Guest stars Derek Partridge, Keon Young, and Matthew Wood. Ahsoka informs Kanan that she's continuing her investigation on the Sith Lord Darth Vader, but finding information on him is difficult. In the meantime, she receives word of 2 sets of coordinates that cross the Imperial net. She heads to look into one of them while dispatching Kanan, Ezra, Zeb, and Chopper to the other. Ahsoka arrives at her location first, a ransacked passenger ship adrift in space, and finds signs of weapon damage all over. The lone survivor, a grandmother, claims 2 red blades kidnapped her grandchild from her and disappeared. Ahsoka informs the team at their destination on a distant planet that the 2 Inquisitors are involved. Zeb and Chopper locate the Inquisitors fighters at the spaceport and reclaim the baby stored in one before destroying them. While an Inquisitor baby. While Kanan and Ezra find the distressed mother of the second child, Chopper takes the first child to the Phantom Shuttle while Zeb encounters the Inquisitors on the street after relieving the fleeing droid on the second baby. Kanan, Zeb, and Ezra discover that the children are Force sensitive and were targeted by the Inquisitors to ensure that they do not become Jedi. They attempt to lose the Inquisitors though through a housing block on their way back to the shuttle, but are overpowered by them. Ahsoka appears and easily defeats both of the Inquisitors while the rest of them escape, using the Force to jump up and join them in the shuttle as it passes overhead. The rebels escape, but not before one of Seventh Sister's probe droid hears that Ezra says they're going back to Planet Gorel. That was so stupid. Man, the fact that Ezra was the one who pointed out to Kanan, hey, get back. And then like probe droid comes down, right? And then when it goes away, they go into the building. And then when he leaves the building, he forgets about the probe droid. And it comes down, it's like, dude, you're the one who pointed it out. Like, how could you forget that? And then like right outside the door is like, oh, maybe you'll like it back on Gorel. Like,
yeah, just talking to an infant.
Just talking to a baby. Yeah. It's like, dude, come on, man. Like, it's like, how stupid can you be?
Do you think Ezra realized how many Rebel pilots died after this because of this one?
It's all his fault. And he never clues in it's his fault.
No, you're right. He never figures it out.
Never figures it out. It never comes up later. This is, to note, the first episode that takes place in 3 BBY. So it's the first episode that marks 3 years before all the events of Rogue One and A New Hope. Ahsoka's conversation about Vader, to me, indicated that she really hasn't brought herself to believe that it's Anakin, but she's investigating more. And the way that she talks about it to Kanan is so casually that...
Yeah, so we talked about this during the
season 1 finale, or season 2 opening.
Yeah, because we left the speculation out, because you thought that she figured out Vader was Anakin.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty sure she didn't. I'm pretty sure she just hadn't felt a Sith Lord since like Dooku.
Yeah. So okay. So this is one of those weird moments where like I have that opinion only because I know what happens later.
Well, I think it's revealed to her later.
Yeah, and it's something is mentioned verbally that she's like always known, but she can't, like, she hasn't brought herself to believe that's him, right? So it's one of those weird moments where it's like, oh yeah, we forgot about all of that. And I don't know, maybe she's just kind of nonchalantly, yeah, I've been looking into that Sith Lord, and I came across some stuff. So I don't know. I mean, to me, it was a bit strange that she wasn't more like solemn about how she brought it up to Kanan, but I don't know. Maybe I'm going too deep into this, but
it was pretty in passing.
Yeah, it was pretty in passing. Yeah, it was. It was for something that she kind of had like such a harsh connection to. Like she blacked out, right? Like nobody does that when they like sense a Sith Lord.
That's true. Unless she was just sensing them so intently.
Like Vader blocked her out of, he did the thing that Snape was teaching Harry to do. Legitimus. It's just like to block out the.
Yeah, I don't remember the name of it. It's a specific kind of discipline of magic.
Yeah, and then Harry does the backfire thing. He's like, potato. And then he does it back, and then sees Snape's childhood. Anyways, so I don't know. I just thought okay, deep down, it's him.
Is that it?
Oh yeah, occlumency, occlumency or something.
Roughly what it is.
Yeah. Oh, whatever. It's a Star Wars podcast. Potatoes.
All right, back on topic.
Expect some carrot soup.
Oh my God. What was it? Yeah.
All right. So so the plot line of kidnapping kids tends to be a repeating plot line with Palps. We've seen this plot line before in Clone Wars.
Though then it was to train them in the dark side. Now they think it's just so they don't become Jedi.
Yeah, something like that.
Because we always thought this is how they recruited more Inquisitors.
Yeah, and it's it's something that's possible that they may have had hopes with. Maybe if they captured some Force sensitive children, maybe they thought, oh, well, we can train these kids as Inquisitors, right? Because Palpatine in the Clone Wars, when he had the whole kidnapping children plot line, that played up later when Pong Krell betrayed the clones and admitted to them that he was not a Sith Lord, but also not a Jedi anymore, and said that something about how he envisioned himself as an agent of Dooku among, I think he indicated the fact that there was going to be a movement of dark side Jedi that basically betray their own, right? Something like that.
Unbeknownst to him, there's only 7.
Seven Inquisitors?
Yeah.
No, there's more. I think there's
10,000 Jedi.
Oh, yeah. I see what you mean, yeah. No, I think, total count, I think, is between 12 and 14. But, yeah, it was there was not very many.
They really got to work on the recruiting.
Yeah, they really do, yeah. At the same time, though, I mean, this whole time we thought that, before Star Wars Rebels came out, we thought that it was just Anakin, right?
That's true.
So.
And Starkiller.
It's more than nothing.
I don't believe that.
Yeah. She refers to the grandma. She refers to the Inquisitors as the 2 red blades. This is not the first time this has happened. There were someone in Clone Wars, I believe, referred to Maul and Savage Opress as red blades as well. And incidentally, it's also the title of the latest Star Wars book, Rise of the Red Blade, Inquisitor, the one I was just mentioning that we were going to talk about in our next book review. It's called Inquisitor Rise of the Red Blade.
It's all coming together.
Yes. Everything is proceeding as I have foreseen.
Do you find it interesting, though, that they're specifically now going after kids because they're worried about them being as annoying as Ezra?
Man, wouldn't that be something?
I mean, they didn't do it before, but now that
we need less children in the galaxy like Ezra Bridger.
Called out specifically by Palpatine.
Yeah. He is annoying. Kill them all.
Do it.
Wipe them out. All of them.
All of him.
All of the children. And then bring them to me. Ahsoka's moment is super epic when she comes out of the double doors, white glowing behind her, steam coming out. Totally just ruins the Inquisitors. It doesn't kill them or anything. She could have, but doesn't.
Yeah,
that was something that was
would have been a good idea to do that.
I mean, she in the Tales of the Jedi episode where she bests that Inquisitor in 5 seconds flat. That was something that I was like, dude, she killed that guy. Why can't she kill these people? But whatever.
Kids show
again. Purpose of the story, right? Yeah. And that's something that's always bothered me about Rebels. Yeah. It's just not mature enough. It's for younger viewers, right? So they can't always constantly kill people in every episode.
I got a point.
But that's what I want to see.
So, I think it's season 1, when they capture Kanan or whatever, and they specifically call out their cell is the only cell that doesn't kill anyone.
Yeah.
But they never said, other than Ezra, they never used stun.
Right.
So how are they not killing people?
I don't know, but like
None of them.
I mean, recently, like they've been killing a lot more stormtroopers.
Yeah.
But that's
even the first season, they weren't really using stun.
Right.
Not all the time.
They took a lot more shoulder hits and stuff though, and now they're going like, I don't know. They're going a little more intense on the stormtroopers, but it's still like it could be better. You know, it could be
it's like Batman when he's given up, not people.
Like the deaths of the clones in Clone Wars were just they're just better. They were just done better. You know what I mean? More charred bits, more sparks, more.
More gory,
you saw the holes, right? Yeah. Anyway, bring on the violence. Yeah. Ahsoka's
Disney XD. Put it back in Cartoon Network.
Yeah, exactly. Disney XD. Ahsoka's moment though was pretty cool. You know, very very much falling into that samurai place that she's kind of brought herself to. You know, deactivates her lightsabers and literally uses the Force to like sense when that seventh sister is coming down with hers and just grabs the hilt and just throws it away and then
that was pretty cool.
Pushes her up against the pillar. That was pretty sweet. So yeah, lots of cool stuff.
Right in that scene though, she grabs her saber. Like, why didn't she cut or like break her saber or something? So she tosses it and then of course it just immediately comes back in.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's the first thing I thought of.
It's one of those things, right? It's just one of those things that's like, again, purpose of the story. Not a huge fan of some of the choices that they've made, but at the same time, it's like you could always just make another Inquisitor, but because that's why they're a thing.
Could you imagine that if we had a Monster of the Week Inquisitor? So it's like every week was a new one because they just kept beating them.
Okay, now that would be bad. I mean, like,
oh my god,
I want Kenny. Too many. Yeah, too many. That's a little ridiculous. But all right, Pablo Points of Produce. What did you think of this one?
The Ahsoka duel was pretty cool, and I like that it's connecting to Clone Wars story.
Mm.
But I also know that some of the episodes coming up are a lot better.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna keep solid. I think at 1 Pablo point.
I'm with you there. 1 Pablo point. Better than I liked it more than the last one, and yeah, the lightsaber duel kind of it sold it. I've got my gripes about it, but it was a good episode because
cool
of that.
To watch.
And and I also like that scene where Zeb and Kanan like run out the window, and then they land on a speeder. And Zeb's
that's
like,
right.
A speeder, genius!
How did you know?
How did you know?
It's like
I didn't.
So good. Season 2, episode 11, Legacy, written by Henry Gilroy, directed by Mel Zwire, I think it is. Mel Zwire. Premiered December 2nd, 2015 on Disney XD. Stars Derek Partridge, Keon Young, and Matthew Wood. Ezra has a vivid dream about his parents, which he is convinced is a vision, which will lead him to discover their fate. Hera and Kanan reveal that they have secretly spent months investigating Imperial prisons and have heard about a recent prison break. As the Ghost prepares to return to Lothal to investigate Ezra's vision, the Imperial fleet arrives at Garel base based on the intelligence from the Seventh Sisters probe droid, which overheard Ezra Bridger. Ezra and Kanan escape to Lothal in the Phantom, while the Ghost remains behind to assist the escape of the Rebel fleet. On Lothal, Ezra follows a Lothcat, which appeared in his dream to prisoner X-10, one of the escapees who is the former governor of Lothal, Ryder Azadi. Azadi tells Ezra that his parents heard his broadcast and it inspired them to organize the prison break in which he had escaped from. However, Ezra's parents had been killed during the breakout. While saddened at his parents' death, Ezra takes solace in that they heard his message, and Kanan comforts him by telling him that his parents live on inside of him. To note, this is the last episode which aired before the release of Star Wars The Force Awakens in 2015.
This was a really good episode, so I can see why they would have left in a hanger like that.
It was a good episode, yeah. And crazy to think that his parents were actually alive throughout the entire course of events in Season 1, thinking that he was alone and that they were dead that whole time, and then getting so close to realizing, oh, they were actually alive and they heard my message. Like, that's crazy.
It is very crazy. So, did they put an actual point in time how far before this episode, him trying to find them, they actually passed?
Yeah, so I guess this being the 11th episode of season 2, we're like exactly halfway through season 2 at this point. I don't know when the prison break happened, but it happened kind of within recent like
Last few months sort of idea.
maybe even like the last few kind of like weeks sort of thing, right?
Man, could you imagine that?
Oh,
the
man.
force gives you a vision of arresting your parents 3 weeks after they're dead.
Pretty nuts, right?
Like, it's kind of a dick move.
Yeah, totally. So this character Ryder, I mean, he used to be the governor of Lothal. Cool character, really liked his character. He's actually he's voiced by a familiar. He should be on the guest stars, but he's actually not. He's voiced by Clancy Brown, also known as the voice of Savage Opress, also known as also known as the voice actor who plays Mr. Krabs. Legendary
I
voice
did not
actor.
know that.
Legendary. Money. Yeah, so he's a legendary voice actor. So he plays Ryder, and I thought it was interesting that they start kind of giving Ezra these premonitions.
Mm-hmm.
Premonitions.
It's funny though how when Anakin got them, was all these warnings, and he made all the wrong mistakes and whatever. But Ezra did basically the same thing. He took them very literally, but it led him where he needed to go instead of.
Yeah.
Well, I guess
Did you like that, or did you not like that?
Well, it's interesting then because you never know how to take the Force's visions.
Yeah, exactly.
Are they literal or not? Are you actually causing yourself harm by following them, or are you gonna cause yourself harm by not following them?
I think that's just it, right? It's like the Force is trying to tell him something, just as it was trying to tell Anakin or just anyone who has a vision. I mean, even Luke in the sequels, with his vision of Kylo Ren, of Ben Solo, he sensed the darkness growing and decided to act badly on it, and ended up causing, much like Vader, much like Anakin, repeating a series of events, that if he did nothing, it wouldn't have happened, right? Mm-hmm. And Ezra's vision, it's a much more child-friendly variation of that, where it it led him to where he needed to be, but the result was just not what he was expecting. Right. So I think it was more of a story of like, hey, take it with a grain of salt. Don't get your hopes up. Mm-hmm. This is not going to go the way. This is not going to go the way you think.
That's true.
So
but he gets pretty obsessed with it too, right? So it's like there's a point where they run into the 2 Inquisitors, and he just like is filled with rage and like runs at them.
Yeah.
And Kanan just doesn't bring it up.
Yeah, that was pretty crazy. I kind of liked that though. I kind of liked that he had the confidence to do that. You know what I mean? Like he's not.
But so did that Mon Calamari with General Grievous, and he got sliced and diced into sashimi.
Oh, that was right. Yeah. We see Ezra's vision of Lothal in the future of this episode at the very end. He has a vision of a white city. Of Lothal, and ironically enough, it's the white city on Lothal that we see in the trailer of Ahsoka now.
I thought I recognized that.
But also, it's the white city that we see, again, spoilers, for the end of season 4 of Star Wars Rebels. But we do actually end up seeing that city after Lothal has recovered from the atrocities that have happened there with the Empire. And I don't know how they could have built a city so quickly. But
didn't it look like Alderaan?
Kind of, yeah. I mean, it's like a city in the Lothal Plains, right? But a city nonetheless, and it's the one that we see Sabine driving her speeder towards in the Ahsoka trailer. But he has a vision of that city, and it's the one that we see at the end of Star Wars Rebels season 4, and it's also just kind of, I think, in my own opinion, I thought to myself, always, anytime I see anything Dave does, I have to remember Dave's a huge Lord of the Rings fan. Mm. So for me, when I saw that moment of his vision of the White City, right, it just kind of reminded me of Minas Tirith.
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, like, oh, this is this is drawing a subtle parallel between perhaps the vision that Pippin has, or that Mary, Pippin, right?
It's Pippin.
Pippin, yeah, that Pippin has of the White City. Of course, a much darker story. The city's on fire, and
Ezra saw Lothcat instead of a tree.
Yeah, exactly. But I think the whole story can be taken as inspiration from something that came out of Tolkien's writing. So I thought that was very cool. I thought that was very good.
That's a good parallel. I didn't actually consider that.
Pablo points for Poodoo's.
I like this one a lot.
I'm going to give it 2.
I would say at least a 2. I might even give it... Yeah, action could have been a little better. I'll give it 2 1/3.
Okay. Well, that's pretty good. That's pretty high.
I was really happy with. I thought there was really good story arc development for Ezra in this.
There's good emotion too.
It kept me engaged. Maybe it's because the last 2 were a little bit lower, and then this one, to me, it felt above and beyond.
Yeah, and it's also like some really hardcore emotion there with his parents and everything in that story.
Yeah.
Like that was a huge thing to digest, even just as a viewer. Like to know that they were alive in season 1, and like what Zebo was saying, that Rodian that they met, and he knew what happened to Ezra's parents. Like that's what we've been waiting for this entire time. In season 1, when they picked up that Rodian, who he revealed to Hera what he knew, and we never discovered what he knew as an audience.
And that was part of it for me too, that this episode started putting a lot of the puzzle pieces together.
Yeah, it resolved all that. So now we know, Hera has been looking into it this entire time. Like she probably found out from Zebo they were captured by the Empire and brought to a containment, an encampment somewhere, like a prison camp. And that her and Kanan have been secretly looking into this as the months have gone by, just to spare Ezra the false hope of maybe perhaps getting too obsessed with the idea that they're still out there looking for him or whatever. And I think it was a good sort of like what I would call like a parenting call on their part, just to kind of, let's just look into this on our own. And then like when we find out what happened, we'll tell him, right?
Don't want to get his hopes up. I mean, look what he did.
Exactly.
He basically just ran, full tilt into it.
Exactly. Yeah. So I thought it was a really well written episode and resolved a lot of questions that we had, which season 1, really sort of sparked up. Season 2, episode 12, A Princess on Lothal, written by Stephen Melching, directed by Bosco Ing, premiered January 20th, 2016 on Disney XD. Guest stars Clancy Brown, Julie Dolan, and Liam O'Brien. While Ezra grapples with the news about his parents, the rebels make plans with Senator Bail Organa to secure 3 much-needed cruisers. Leading the mission is an agent handpicked by the senator, his daughter, Princess Leia. Leia meets up with Kanan and Ezra, plans to have the rebels steal her ship so as to not reveal Alderaan's support. However, their plans are thwarted when the Imperial security proves to be much stronger than expected. The trio link back up with the rest of the Ghost crew, rescuing Azadi from an Imperial patrol in the process. Leia then inspires the crew to come up with a plan to steal the cruisers, with Leia distracting the guards while the Phantom provides air support, and Azadi disables the gravity locks on the cruisers. This is Azadi. We're talking about Ryder Azadi that we met in the last episode. And just like that, I've lost my place. Oh, here we go. The plan is a success, with the rebels stealing all 3 cruisers while Leia blames the Imperials for their failure to protect them. Inspired by the actions of Leia and the rebels, Ryder Azadi decides to join the cause again. So this was a special episode. I mean, to see Leia in her sort of senatorial duties prior to her being leader of the rebellion that we knew her to be in episode 4.
Yep, and leading directly into where we see her in A New Hope.
Yeah,
and
totally.
At the end of Rogue One, and Vader calls her out as being like a rebel sympathizer.
Yeah, exactly. And well, in episode 4, I think he calls her a rebel spy.
There you go.
I believe.
Traitor.
Yeah. There was something really interesting out of this episode that came up. When the AT-ATs are dropped down next to the Hammerhead cruisers, they were dropped off by some sort of ship that kind of magnetically just set them down.
And I think ground clamps is what they were. they called them gravity clamps, I think.
No, the walkers. The walkers.
Oh,
so the walkers were like dropped off by like a magnetic kind of shuttle, right? It just kind of drops in there. And I've always thought to myself, how the heck did those walkers get onto Hoth, right? But now we know. Now they were just kind of like magnetically dropped down, just the way that we've seen in the Attack of the Clones, like with the ATTE.
Yeah.
Yeah, those same
giant
thing, the big
gunships.
huge lat gunship that kind of just drops it in place and then flies off again. Same kind of thing. But yeah,
cool. Finally seen it. Right?
finally seen it. Yeah, I just wanted to throw that out there. Also, yeah, the gravity locks you were saying.
Yeah, because I found it really funny that they brought those in.
Yeah.
And they specifically say, Princess, your ships have a habit of being stolen whenever you bring them somewhere. So
Yeah.
we brought these in extra security.
I thought that was actually really smart because it's cool to see how the early Rebel fleet was built by using mostly, quote, stolen ships, right? And it's basically due to Leia and Bail having incidents all the time where their ships get stolen.
But the Empire is really on to what they're doing.
Yeah, they are.
And I'm wondering how many times they've done this.
A few times, I think.
If they're this aware, like if this doesn't happen to anyone else, I feel like it's so obvious.
Exactly. I also love what they did here. This episode features 3 Hammerhead Corvettes, the ones that they're trying to steal, which were also featured later in 2016 when Rogue One came out.
That's right.
In December. And the episode this episode premiered in January 2016. So at the end of this year, when Rogue One came out, we saw those same Corvettes that the Rebellion used in the Battle of Scarif, and basically saved the whole operation when
They're the ones that pushed the Star Destroyer into the, I think it was the other Star Destroyer, and then that one crashed into the shield.
Exactly, yeah. So that was really cool.
But these were brought back into canon because these were originally for the KOTOR games.
Yeah, once again, more EU stuff being brought back. But yeah, it was cool to see how the Rebellion acquired these ships, seeing as they were somehow kind of these old junker transport ships being used by Alderaan to shuttle supplies to and from the planets, for aid, for relief effort. But then being the fact that they are very sturdy ships and have some battle capacity to them, I guess they thought the Rebellion can use these for their fleet. Let's get them to steal them, right? And so that was kind of cool to see how those famous ships in Rogue One came into their possession. But I think there was also some story group involvement there. There must have been some communication between the production side of Rogue One and Star Wars Rebels.
I would think so, yeah.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if you noticed, but in that scene specifically in Rogue One, that they use the Hammerhead cruisers to like push the Star Destroyer, and the front of it, because it's like that big wide shovel kind of wedge shape.
Yep.
Like the perfect ship for the job.
Yeah.
Because it just wedges right into a nook of the Star Destroyer and just starts pushing.
Yeah, exactly. It's like the perfect ship for the task.
So I don't know which show story group suggested for it first before being funneling into the other one.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? I would imagine maybe Rogue One was onto it first. Maybe someone suggested using some old ships like that for the film.
The only thing that makes me question that is you just said that the previous episode of Rebels was the last episode before Force Awakens came out.
Yeah, the previous one was.
How far into development would Rogue One have been? That's the question, right?
Well, at this point in time, it definitely would have been in post and reshoots, probably. If I were to put a guess on it.
Because it's the following year?
It's the same year. So this episode released January 2016.
Sorry, I mean Force Awakens and Rogue One.
Force Awakens came out 2015 December.
And then Rogue One is 2016.
December.
Okay, so
yeah. So 1 year later.
Okay.
So the animation efforts of season 2 of Rebels though would have taken place during 2015. And that would have been kind of when production would have been kind of head on in Rogue One, right? So I imagine that there was some communication there at some point, when they were perhaps whipping up assets for this particular episode in Rebels. And, there must have been some sort of initiative there and story group being involved in all the stories happening, all across the board, perhaps saw an opportunity to explain perhaps, oh, well, we made the decision to, assist with putting these old EU ships into canon by having them at the Battle of Scarif, part of the Rebel fleet, whatever else. It would be cool to tell kind of like how the Rebels got those ships. Let's throw that story into Rebels, since there's a story brewing over here where they do steal some ships. Perhaps they can be the same ship, right?
Yeah, that makes sense. I can see them doing that.
Yeah. That is...
Dave Filoni sees them like, oh, that's cool. I know what that is.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's all I got for this one. Pablo Points or Poodoos. What'd you give this one?
It was nice seeing the princess, but there was a number of things that annoyed me.
Yeah.
So, we didn't even get to the second part. So the first part was that they are so aware of the princess, like clearly giving all the rebels all this stuff because this keeps happening.
Yeah.
But then on top of that, it's so obvious at the end she's the only person left that clearly she was involved again.
Yeah.
Like, oh, you have to pretend to knock me out or whatever. And like everyone else is dead.
I think she kind of sold it when they're like, oh, you couldn't even protect your own ship from being stolen.
Yeah, she starts
like,
calling them out.
Yeah, I think they're definitely onto her.
And she
though.
disappears. So Kanan and Ezra are dressed as the troopers again. And so they quote, kidnap her.
Yeah.
While trying to save her so that they can go back to the base of the rider. And then when they come back, they turn on all the other troopers. So it's really obvious that they were also involved. So then all of them must be rebels.
Right.
So then the princess has to be rebel.
Right. Yeah. It was just like, bad math on the Imperial's fault, I guess. But I don't know.
To me, that's it. Maybe they're just playing into why Vader is so aware that she's a rebel and a traitor.
Yeah, because he's so convinced too, right? But I don't know. I think there's definitely more to it than just seeing that ship fly off into space at the end of Rogue One. Like, I think when he gets aboard and he sees who's there, I think he knows. He's like, oh yeah, this is it.
That just again then makes them just so incredibly incompetent.
Yeah, it is.
So,
what it is.
To me, that's a huge detractor.
Yeah, that's fair.
So I'm gonna say 0.7.
0.7 Pablo points.
Yeah.
I'm gonna give it a Bendu.
Okay.
Yeah, it was really cool. The only reason why it's not like it's not bad. It's just not like super great. But it was really cool to see Leia, and the voice actress who voiced her was very talented at doing a very good Carrie impersonation.
Was it her daughter?
No, somebody else. Joe. Oh shoot, what's her name? Julie Dolan.
Okay.
Yeah, so that was really cool, and weirdly enough, this episode having it come out in 2016 in January 20th. I mean, this was not only like a solid 12 months away from the release of Rogue One, but a solid 12 months away from Carrie's death. So, it makes me wonder, like, maybe she saw this. Maybe she saw this episode, saw her animated form.
I'm just trying to put all the math together in my head. So that means...
Because she passed away right before the film released, I think, before Rogue One came out.
I thought that was Last Jedi.
No, it was because
they were done filming.
Yeah.
Last Jedi.
Yeah, they had finished.
It hadn't come out yet.
No, that was the following year.
Into post. It was at least summer.
So Carrie passed away December 27th, 2016. So it was.
That was December.
So it was. Sorry, I thought she died before Rogue One. No, it was after by about 10 days.
Dang, still that's really close.
It's very close. Yeah.
I thought it was much later than that.
No. Yeah, and then 2017 was Last Jedi. But yeah, at that point they'd filmed all that they needed to for her scenes. Yeah. And that's when they started having rewrite problems for episode 9.
Yeah.
So, yeah. There we have it. So yeah.
Is there one more, isn't there?
No, actually I think I'm just looking at our list. I think that covers 4 today.
Oh.
So we start with Stealth Strike episode 9. hit episode 10, Future of the Force, episode 11, Legacy, and episode 12, A Princess on Lothal. That is the
It went by so fast.
the meat and potatoes. Yeah, that's everything. What's the expression I'm looking for? That's it, folks. I don't know. Something. I don't know. There's like an expression to like it's something food related, but whatever. That's the Bantha Burger, everybody. No, that doesn't work.
Yeah, I don't know. Keep pitching here. Keep pitching.
Okay, if you haven't put your name in the giveaway, everybody check out the description link below. We haven't talked about the giveaway. We talk about the giveaway every episode. So make sure you hit the link in the description for your chance to win a Orbit Key Star Wars Retro Series key organizer so that you don't get those pokey things jabbing at your leg in your pocket, so that you don't get the jingling when you walk around the block. It's significantly easier to open up your door. Gives it a nice handle. It's a nice leather sleeve to put your keys in. They just twist out like a Swiss Army knife. And
super handy.
They're super handy. Yeah, they're super great.
Just the fact that the keys don't scratch my phone screen anymore.
Yeah.
The most important part.
Exactly. So throw your name in the hat. You got a chance to win a free one. And we will announce the winner in less than 10 days by the time this episode drops. So make sure you check that out. And a big thank you to Orbit Key again for allowing us to do this. Great opportunity.
Wait,
and
so you're saying by the time this episode comes out,
there will be about 9 days left.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. So
I thought you were saying that it'll already be over.
No, 9 days left. But I gotta keep that in mind for when we do these recordings. I gotta be like, I gotta be ahead of it. So yeah, definitely stay tuned and be sure to follow our socials. And we'll exit you out, sir. Thank you again for joining us, and we'll see you in the next episode.
We'll see you out there. Keep flying.
Thank you guys for tuning into the podcast. And as always, we appreciate reviews and 5 stars. And if you can't give 5 stars, maybe just write a review and tell us why. We really just love to hear from our audience. So definitely check out our Discord, the giveaway link in the description. Always with Rebels Talk. Check the descriptions for which episodes to watch before you listen. And we will see you in the next episode of Star Wars Escape Pod or Rebels Talk. May the Force be with you.